little reading vlog. I wasn't necessarily planning on filming this weekend, but I do have some really fun spooky season reading that I'm going to be doing, and my husband and I just got back from a really awesome used book sale, and I got a bunch of books for $30, and I thought I would show you what we got. My husband also got a couple of things, and I may include them a little bit later, but I left them out for now. But I have some really cool books that I thought I would share with you. The first is this really beautiful copy of Wuthering Heights with some truly amazing art on the inside. You can see it has, I think these are engravings or etchings. And when I saw this was one of the first books I saw while I was going through the classic section, and I was like, oh yes, immediately yes. Like, look at that. Look at that. That is so cool. So I am hoping to read Wuthering Heights soon, possibly in November, which I mentioned in my previous video when I was talking about my spooky season and my Victober reading plan. So I found a really cool version of that. And next I found a really cool handful of books by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This is the Novels and Tales of Nathaniel Hawthorne, and it is an Everyman's version. We have a couple of these, but it is kind of wobbly. You can kind of tell the binding isn't that great. I will have to repair it, but I do have what I need to repair it, so that's not that big of a deal. So it has all of his novels: The Scarlet Letter, The House of Seven Gables, The Blithedale Romance, The Marble Fan, and it does have a bunch of his short stories from Twice Told Tales, Mosses from an Old Manse, and The Snow Image. So that is really exciting, although I will say, and this kind of explains part of the reason why I got what I got next, it says it has extracts from Twice Told Tales and Mosses from an Old Manse. So in addition to this, I also got Mosses from an Old Manse and Twice Told Tales in these truly beautiful old bound versions. They're from 1891, and while I was going through these books to clean them, I found something really cool, and I forget which one it was in. Okay, so inside Twice Told Tales, I found these two little cards, and here it says, to John and Marnie from Arthur and Elmer, Merry Christmas, 1891. That is so cool. And truly beautiful writing. And it also has this interesting little business card that has a calendar from the latter half of 1896. And I just thought that was so cool, and I didn't see that when we were shopping. I got these because the other Hawthorne didn't have the complete versions of both of these short story collections. So that was really just a stroke of luck, and I'm really happy about these. I am currently reading The Scarlet Letter, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but I'm really enjoying it. It's such a fun reread for me, and I'm really hoping to read more of his stuff. I do already have a copy of The Blithedale Romance and House of Seven Gables, but I didn't have any of his other books, and I didn't have any of his story collections, so I'm very happy to have those. And then next, this is kind of fun and a little random. I have Captain Horatio Hornblower 1, Boat to Quarters, in this fun little bound copy, and this is also illustrated. It has some really cool illustrations there. This is from 1939, and you can kind of tell, I'm pretty sure Horatio Hornblower is children's literature, but I've never read it before, and I was thinking about maybe reading it this past summer, but I never got to it. and hopefully next summer I'll be able to read it. Maybe listen to it, but it's nice to have a copy as well. Next up, this might seem a little strange, but I'm really excited about these. These are the Norton Anthology of English Literature, Volumes 1 and 2. And this, the first one starts and has Middle English up until, in the second volume, this starts with the Romantic poets, Romantic literature, and as an English major, I have such a soft spot in my heart for the Norton anthologies. They are big and rather brick-like, but something I really love about these is they have the literary map of England in there, which I thought was so fun. And here we have a map of London on the back, flyleaf. And we just have all sorts of great things in here. So we have, from the Middle Ages, we have Beowulf, the Wanderer, the Battle of Maldon. We have some Chaucer. We have Middle English lyrics, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Sir Thomas Malory. Going up to the 16th century, we have Edmund Spenser. And let's see what it ends with. They really do pack a lot in these, don't they? Oh, okay. And it ends with one of my personal favorite poets, William Cowper. We have The Task, all of the books of The Task, which is really exciting. I've read parts of The Task, but I haven't read all of it yet. We have The Castaway, that's one of my favorite poems. All of that good stuff. That's from the first volume. And then the second volume, I know it starts with the Romantic poets, and here again we have the map, the literary map of England. We have Robert Burns, more William Blake, William Wordsworth. It goes up to the 20th century. We have James Joyce in here, Dylan Thomas. So I am super excited to have these in the collection to put with our other fun Nortons. And then two more things. The first is The Great Dialogues of Plato. I don't have a copy of this, and for some of my own personal curriculum that I've put together, I was reading some of the Republic earlier last month, and I realized I didn't have a copy of this, so this is just a good thing to have on hand. We found, my husband actually found this, a really cool mass market copy of The Rime of the Ancient Mariner The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and just look at how cool that cover is, if you can see. And this is another personal favorite, although it does look like somebody's dog or cat got to it. There's little bite marks, but that's fine. It's still really cool. And this is another favorite poem of mine, so it's cool to have it in its own dedicated mass market. But here's the stack, or half of the stack at least. We have some more stragglers down here, but I'm really excited about the books that we found. And I thought I would just talk with you a little bit about what I've been reading. I kind of have a bit of a smorgasbord of books right now, books that I'm enjoying here and there, and just sampling all sorts of books, if that makes any sense. But I'm almost finished with The Scarlet Letter. I am really hoping to finish this book tonight. So I am going to be filming and talking a little bit about this, The Scarlet Letter. I am also hoping I'm hoping to finish Beowulf. I forget if I mentioned this before, but I am a part of Adam Walker's First community, and right now they're doing a lecture series on Beowulf, and so I'm hoping to read this through. I also found the audiobook where Seamus Heaney reads this and reads his translation, so I thought that would be really fun to listen along as I read. So I have Beowulf. This is a reread for me. Both of these are rereads, but I hadn't read The Scarlet Letter maybe since high school. This is probably my first reread in 10 years at least. And then Beowulf, the last time I read this was in college, so it's been a really long time since I've read this. And then, of course, I am still working on reading Jane Eyre, which I'm also hoping to maybe finish this weekend, or if I can't finish it this weekend, at least get a good chunk of the way through. And this is really exciting. My friend Maddie and I are doing a buddy read for Something Wicked This Way Comes. This will be my first Ray Bradbury. I've never read him before, and from what I've sampled, I've read a couple short stories from October Country now, and I've read a little bit about his tips for writing and all of that good stuff. He seems like a really interesting writer, a cool character, and I'm excited to read this. This seems kind of like the perfect spooky season book. I'm really excited to get into this. And then I have been reading on and off Goethe's Faust. This is a play, it's in verse. It is a lot of fun. I believe this inspired Dr. Faustus, which I have read by Marlowe, and I really enjoyed that story, and I've heard such amazing things about Faust. And I've read a little bit of the beginning of the play. I'm not very far in, but what I've read so far I have really, really enjoyed, and is really beautiful. I just love reading a play too. There's something about plays, like reading Shakespeare, or I really love modern plays as well, like Death of a Salesman is one of my favorite plays. There's just something about reading a play that I just love. I'm really excited to read more of this. I'm really enjoying it, and this again is really perfect for spooky season. Very, very spooky. I'm not expecting to finish all of these books in the course of one weekend, but I really want to try to read as much as possible this weekend. I want to try to just be cozy and immerse myself in a bunch of really interesting worlds, and like I said, it's kind of a fun smorgasbord to try to dip into each of these. I'm gonna go put on some cozy clothes, put on some sweatpants, and I am going to try to finish The Scarlet Letter tonight, and then we'll see what else I get into. Okay, I am gonna do a bit of a different angle than usual, but I wanted to talk to you quickly about The Scarlet Letter. I finished this last night, and this was such an amazing reread. I may have mentioned this before, but the last time I read this, I was in high school, and as you may or may not know, I was an English major when I was in my undergrad, and then I went on to become an archivist. I went to library school, and what set me on that track was a string of really great English teachers and really great encounters with amazing books like The Scarlet Letter. And for a really long time, I would say that The Scarlet Letter was one of my favorite books, but I really do feel like I can confidently say this is one of my favorites. I'm so glad that I read this. I felt like every single chapter was like a painting. Every single sentence was like a fine brush stroke to create the whole. It was truly so beautiful. It took me a really long time to read. I would take breaks. I read this on and off for about 2 months. I started in August and I finished yesterday, and it's the end of October. So while it did take me a long time to read, I'm glad I took the time that I did, because I kind of got to really revel in the story, revel in the characters and the description. And something interesting about the characters in this book, if you don't know the plot of The Scarlet Letter, it is about a woman named Hester Prynne. She, in the beginning of this book, has had a child out of wedlock, and she is punished in her society. She lives in Puritan Boston, so having a child out of wedlock is very much not what you're supposed to do. I apologize, by the way, if you hear my neighbor cleaning, probably. She has to wear A for adultery, for the crime that she committed in that society. And the story kind of goes on from there. In the beginning of the story, you don't know who the person is that she had this relationship with. You don't know who Pearl, her daughter, you don't know who Pearl's father is. You also meet Hester's husband, and he plays a rather big part of the story. And all of these characters, really, how they interact with each other, how they do bad to one another, how they grow as characters, it is all very interesting, and I enjoyed it so much. It's a really interesting character study, and as a writer, I really appreciate how these characters were developed, and I feel like I really got to learn a lot about characterization and description and just building a plot. This book moves really slowly. A single event can take many, many chapters to develop. The beginning of the book, the beginning scene takes like 4 or 5 chapters, but I think the way that it's developed is really rich, and I just enjoyed it so much. So I highly recommend this classic. If you haven't read it in a long time, or if you haven't read it at all, I really highly recommend it. And as I mentioned previously in this video when I did my haul, I am now completely stocked with Nathaniel Hawthorne's stories and short stories. So hopefully soon I will be able to read one of his novels. I think I really want to read, maybe next fall, The House of Seven Gables, or maybe I will start reading some of his short stories. Young Goodman Brown is a really great short story to read during Halloween, so I may read that this season. We shall see, but highly recommend. And next, Jane Eyre. I am so enjoying this. This is another reread. This is kind of a running theme. These are both books that I read in high school and loved in high school, but haven't read in a really long time. Unlike The Scarlet Letter, I have read Jane Eyre since high school. I read it in college. I wrote part of my senior thesis pretty much on Jane Eyre, and I haven't read it since. And it's really, really nice to be able to take your time with these books. I think when I read both of these books and many of the other books I read in school, I don't think I took the time I would have liked to with them. These are the sorts of books that you really have to drink in, and I really just love reveling in, and if I'm on a deadline, it kind of wrecks the whole effect, at least for me. So being able to really take my time with these as a somewhat slow reader, it has just been so nice. And I'm a little over halfway. Oh, put my bookmark in the wrong place. That's not good, but my bookmark is here. I'm about here, so I'm a little over halfway. And I just got to a very exciting part. I don't want to give any spoilers, but in the middle of the book, if you've read Jane Eyre, you probably know about where I am. And I just got to the part where the lightning strikes the chestnut tree, which feels very symbolic, and it's just very exciting. And similar to Nathaniel Hawthorne, Charlotte Bronte knows how to do a gorgeous, beautiful, atmospheric description, and it has just been so lovely. I'm enjoying this so much. So I'm going to read a little bit more of this. This is probably the last book I'm going to be reading this weekend. I read a little bit of Beowulf last night. I may read a little bit more of it tonight. I'm probably going to try to read a lot of this tonight, but I probably won't finish. I did also start reading Something Wicked This Way Comes. I read a few chapters earlier today, but again, that's going to be a fun book just to read over the course of this week. So it's just been a lot of fun. I am going to read a little bit more. Oh, and I wanted to mention, you saw previously, the fall foliage around where I live is really hitting its peak, and we drove a little ways to Gettysburg and really enjoyed that. Got to see some monuments. We didn't really get out, we just drove around and liked to look at the foliage, looked at some of the statues and some of the plaques that we could see. They have a scenic driving tour that takes you through a lot of the monuments, and we did part of that. We didn't go all the way through, but it was just nice to see some of the history, see the leaves, so it was very nice, but it did take me away from my books, so I'm excited to get back to it, get back to reading. What is he doing up there? Fritz?